Hey everyone, I hope you are all keeping well this fine day. So my name's Draculaw44. What I wanted to do is actually talk to you about the Apex Legends non-competitive tier list. Rank each individual legend, where they're placed, how I feel about them, a couple of reworks I'm going to be doing in the first part. So there's two legends that I feel need a rework or a slight change to make them more viable. They're not in the best place that they could be. I then have B tier, A tier, A plus tier, and the S tier. And it's just going through all the legends that are available at the moment and just categorize them for non-competitive gameplay, so just general gameplay. Now, I will strongly say that it does very much depend on the skill of the individual player. They could take any legend and turn them into a killing machine. So obviously do bear that in mind, that these aren't exact for every player, these are just very general. So with that said, let's get into exactly the start of the video. So the first legend on the list that I feel is a case of needing a rework is, of course, our Mexican friend Octane. Now, this legend is so much fun to actually play. I really like him. I think he's a great legend for his personality and his character in the game. I think where he falls short is, of course, the assets or the things that he gives to the team. Yes, the jump pad has its moments, which we'll see in a later on clip here, but generally speaking, not the best place. His stem is okay, gaining life back's okay, but it is all okay. Now, this is a legend that I feel is in a spot where he's almost there. He could be brilliant, he just needs a slight rework. Now, my suggestions and my thoughts are for this is the jump pad should be basically give all teammates like a speed boost. So when they jump on it, they get a temporary movement and speed boost. Now, and it also allows you to jump further than the distance it currently travels. Now, I do feel that with this one, it's a very hard one to kind of place because, you know, you don't want to make it too overpowered, you don't want to make it too weak. The stem, I feel like, shouldn't take life off because I just feel like, well, he doesn't move that much faster than a normal legend. He does, but not that much faster, and it's kind of, ooh, it's so tricky in that respect. As you can see with the jump pad, yes, I mean, in this particular instance, it's pretty good. It gets you to a kind of a distance. The stem, I think he needs to be faster as well as a legend. And I do feel that, like, he's definitely that one that he doesn't give enough benefits to the team. Now, there probably are some other better ideas and fantastic ideas that you guys can think of, and if you do think of anything, drop a comment below that of suggestions that we can improve Octane, because I really want to see him in a much better place. But there you go, that's Octane. He's the first one for the rework. Now, the second one then may not surprise you, and that, of course, is going to be our good old trusty legend friend, Lifeline. Now, Lifeline, again, I really like Lifeline. I think she's an amazing legend in principle, but she has been put down the rankings simply because you've got Mirage now with his revived invisibility since his rework, and of course then Gibraltar as well with his dome shield and faster healing and faster revives as well. And then you've even got Loba with the better way of looting with her care package, and I feel that she really needs an update. Now, with regards to things like, you know, trying to revive, which you'll see shortly, revive, you've got obviously the revive shield, but it only protects you from the front, so you've got to revive at a certain angle, or the right angle, so if there's people ideally in front of you, yes, it protects you, but it's only literally at the front. And I would say very much that it would be much better as regards to a rework where the drone revived actually the legend that you're reviving, so you were then able to still shoot. This would then add value to her and the team. The care package definitely needs a major update because in the next clip, one after this, most definitely you see that the loot is just so random. It's pretty garbage generally. Yeah, occasionally it's good, you might get a purple shield, but it's not, you know, and it alerts everyone to your presence and to your area. And since the drone now is destroyed, of course, in the storm after 2 ticks, and it now doesn't move about as well, which I really don't understand why they changed that. I don't feel like she's in a very good place, and I definitely feel that she's in the second one that needs a rework. And it's a shame because she is a legend that was so strong early on in the game, and she really had kind of like just a lot of things going for her, and I'd love to see her in a much better place than she currently is, especially with the rework to Mirage, the improvements to Gibraltar, all the things. She's just been very much left behind, and as I said, for the care package, not only does it go in the area, it just is pretty rubbish. Anyway, moving on to the next legend, and that of course is going to be Revenant in the B tier. Now Revenant, I feel, is being improved massively. I think he is a lot better. It is very much maybe style based. He's got the 2 grenades that he can throw to disable the abilities. They do recharge now much quicker. He can throw 2, and they have a bigger area of effect. And I think that, you know, I mean, if you are good with the grenade shots and you can hit certain legends like Wraith, Bangalore that can do the smoke, probably even Mirage to an extent, and a couple of the others, Caustic, you can really cause some problems, and of course, you know, win some battles that you may not be able to otherwise win. As regards to the climbing high and the crawling low, that's pretty good. The only thing I feel with Revenant that I don't honestly like still is the death totem, and I'll show you why in the next clip. Now, you can place the death totem behind, of course, a wall, which is great, but it can still be destroyed, which, okay, is fine. You've got a time limit on there, and it shows you the sort of like you're in the death totem part. But in this particular clip, what was happening is that I didn't know that there was another squad behind me. Now, as you can see, I'm sort of like shooting some legends and things, and then suddenly I'm like, well, why didn't I respawn back to the totem? The totem must have been destroyed, but then it didn't show me that. And then afterwards, the totem shows it's been destroyed, and I get knocked down. So not in the best place, not in the worst, but that is why he's in my B tier. So the next legend then in the B tier, that would be Crypto. Now Crypto is actually a lot better, again, since they've improved the EMP. The drone is quite fun to actually use. As you can sort of see in the background, I'm kind of like just playing around with it. You can open and shut doors, which is quite handy. You can fly over within quite a decent radius, and kind of like look out and sort of, you know, see exactly what's going on as well there, which is really handy. Now, the one thing with Crypto, I think, is, again, depending on the skill level of the player, it leaves you in a situation where sometimes you could be doing a squad fight, the player's on his drone mucking around, and in non-competitive play, you need that extra player to maybe just clutch up that particular battle or fight that maybe perhaps you wouldn't otherwise do. Now, I will say that one of the nice little things, I mean, not that it's ideal if a teammate gets downed, is you can go into the drone and, of course, then rescue. So he's more of a kind of a campier legend, which is why he's much stronger in the competitive meta compared to, like, the normal play. But again, if you get a really amazing player, then, you know, they can just turn any legend into an absolute beast. But yeah, I mean, like, that's why I would say Crypto would be definitely in the B tier for me in the non-competitive play. He has got definitely some team use and some assets, but depending on the player, depending where he's positioned, it can't always be necessarily a good thing. But that is Crypto for B tier. So the next legend then, of course, is Watson. Now, again, Watson is so strong in the competitive meta because you're trying to gain points and rank up high as you can, place within the top 3, the top 1, all that stuff. But in non-competitive play, really, you're just looking for the fun and, you know, of course, having sort of like the thing. Now, if you can do the fences, these are okay. Again, depending if you're out in the open and stuff, these can be easily shot out because they can be destroyed. So, you know, it's more like a kind of like a little warning if you're nearby. The pylon is okay, again, if you place it in a particular sort of place, like in this case on top of the roof. Then you can actually sort of like stop grenades kind of like being spammed at you, which is never a bad thing. You can also then regain shield as well while you're in its proximity, and so can the teammates. So she does add certainly some, you know, asset to the team. She just, compared to some of the other legends now, I would say for non-competitive, out in the open, if she's not in buildings and things, she can be just that a little bit weaker. And that's one of those things. It's very, very hard because, you know, between her and say like Caustic, there, you know, is just little things that can make such a difference. But again, this is why I placed her in the B tier. So that is it for the B tier. So we're going to move on, of course, next to the A tier. And that will be, of course, the next one coming up. So what we're going to start off with is, of course, Bangalore. Now, Bangalore is really solid. I mean, I think the only thing that I would ever kind of maybe change or would like to see change for her is actually her ultimate. Her ultimate is great for maybe making legends back off and maybe making them, instead of pushing, kind of like, you know, having to back off into cover, which is okay. But the missiles are extremely easy to kind of avoid. And although it can provide a little bit of disorientation, even if you're hit by it, unless you're hit directly by the thing, it doesn't actually cause a ridiculous amount of damage. It slows you down temporarily, but it's not as scary as, say, Gibraltar's. And that is a big thing. I think that is the only part that maybe some mortars or some mines or maybe quicker explosions would be nice to sort of see. However, the other ones, the passive where she can move a lot faster when she's being shot at, is invaluable. I would say that is one of the best passives in the game. Definitely very, very strong. And of course then there is the smoke as well for her. Now the smoke, I like the smoke personally. I mean, it's so handy for revivals, it's so handy for healing up, it's so handy just to get out of the firing line and sometimes lose sight of the enemies, which you can see in the clip that's just about to happen. Unfortunately, I got knocked down by a Pathfinder. The other two go off and, of course, then finish him. And then I'm able to sort of smoke. And it is a thing where you're then able to heal up. If there's anyone else shooting at you, they don't know exactly where you are. Yes, they can throw grenades. Yes, they can do other things. But it's not as bad as it could be. And I think that is a really, really, really big asset. The smoke, I would say, also lasts for a very long time. I mean, if you fire it down, it lasts for ages, which gives you a perfect chance to just heal up. So that's Bangalore there for you. So the next legend then would be Loba. Now, Loba is pretty good. She can see quite a way away purple items through bins and through, you know, like grounds and things like that, purple shield. And I do find that that's very useful. She also, of course, has got things like the black market, which is one of those things where if, you know, say like you get a good player, they'll know that, you know, you can go up to it and get items, which I'll showcase shortly, which is great. But then, of course, if they don't realise, they can leave it for other members of an enemy team to get as well, which kind of really sucks. And in an ideal world, you know, they would, you know, take it down, let your teammates get everything, but sometimes they grab what they want and then they close it down, meaning that the rest of the team can't get it, or they just leave it open, which is great, but then, you know, other people can wander up to it and possibly get some really good loot as well. She does have a way of getting items from the vault on World's Edge. Interestingly enough, though, only she can select the loot, which not everybody knows. And also then an alarm goes off as well, which alerts everyone to your nearby presence. So it isn't the greatest idea, and if you get a player that's maybe more solo player, not a team player, it can be a little bit disappointing. And can definitely put you into you know, a very bad situation, which is never a good thing. Now, you know, when you're sort of like looking, you know, you're trying to look, especially for the black market, kind of the area that you want to put it in. Now, I put it down here as an example. It wasn't the best area, to be fair with you, but again, you're just looking at the loot, and you can look and you can loot 2 items per teammate. So it's like, oh, okay, I'll have a helmet, and okay, I'll have some syringes or something. It wasn't that much there in that instance, but you can get some other things. Now, talking then about her disk drive kind of teleporty thing, very, very handy in certain situations as regards to throwing it and maybe getting out of certain elements. But what I'll do is I'm just going to show you now exactly how really this is very dodgy to use, because as you can see, you throw it, you teleport, but I could have been shot many times over. Now, luckily I wasn't, but realistically, that was very dodgy. So that is why Loba is in my A tier. But again, a very solid legend. I don't think there's too much that needs to be changed with that. Still too early to tell. So the next legend then, for me, would be Caustic. Now, Caustic doesn't need too much introduction. I think he's a really strong legend. Yes, he's stronger inside any buildings, kind of like Watson, but I think he can just do a little bit more as to put pressure on a team and really kind of change a situation that maybe wouldn't have been necessarily an advantage. As you can sort of see, the gas ultimate just really turned that game around. It stopped the Mirage pushing by throwing a gas canister up in front. Instead of like attacking, he couldn't. So I think Caustic is really good, especially with his recent buff to now that teammates can see actually a bit clearer through the gas. I still don't think you can see that clearly. I mean, it's not brilliant, but it's certainly a massive improvement in comparison, and you can block up doors to stop legends sort of getting through. You can shoot the canisters if you're pushing for a revive to stop like legends pushing and things like that to an extent, and you can literally like do things like that. The 15% damage decrease is really good as well, because it means that you can survive a situation that maybe you wouldn't otherwise. So that's why Caustic would be an A tier legend for me. Very, very solid indeed there. So the next legend, of course, would be that Hunter Bloodhound. I have to say that in the A part, regards to the A tier, this and the next one were probably the hardest to rank, because again, they could be easily S tiers, they could be A plus tiers, you know, so it's very, very difficult. Bloodhound has got a buff pretty much just, I don't know, a lot. His scan now reaches further, and you're able to intel a lot of things. Now, in that particular instance, like me scanning, picking up 7 enemies, I'm able to tell my friend, JHD, the Duke, get out of there, there are 7 legends there, and there was at least 5 still alive. I think there were 2 downed. So, you know, I was able to give intel in that respect. I'm on mic with the 2 I'm playing with in this clip, but I can see footprints all around, so if I wasn't, I can ping the footprints to say someone travelled through here recently, a while back. The redder the footprints are, the better. You know, you can sort of see how close the enemies are, how fast they, or recently they travelled, and you can just get a much better idea, and you can follow people, and it's really, really good for intel. Now, I would say that as regards to the crows and things, again, never changed, but it's really nice, and so on. Now, Beast of the Hunt, again, that got a buff not long ago as well, so every time you down someone, it extends for an extra 5 seconds, which is really, really, really solid. It makes him faster, makes him better. It hasn't changed in regards to, you know, pretty much like what it does. It's just a very, 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 very good sort of like ultimate to have, and very good for hunting down that last legend or that person that you need to kill. So again, a really strong legend for me. I possibly was thinking about putting him in the A plus tier, really hard to say, but he's very, very solid. So the last one then for the A tier for me, and of course I wonder if you can guess who it is. Yes, it's Mirage. Mirage is absolutely brilliant, and again, it's probably too early to sort of tell how strong he's going to be, see the really strong plays that people come up with, the bamboozles and all the rest. But since his rework, I have to say Respawn have done an absolutely amazing job. The invisibility revive is just an absolute asset to the team, which I think is a much bigger thing than it used to be. He's just for a passive, and he still gets his invisibility when downed as well. His decoy you can take control with. It gives not only now a marker to say where it's shot, but also now he gives a verbal line saying you've been bamboozled, and he only says that when the decoy was actually shot. So you're giving an audio cue and a visual cue for the team to sort of like actually gather that there was someone nearby and that they shot the decoy. Now, like in this clip here, you know, you can control the decoy, you can make it run and make them think that it's you. Again, you've just literally, they wasted some bullets. The ultimate is really good as well. It charges every minute. And although I did like the old ultimate, again, you can just bamboozle people and just pretty much gain the advantage as long as you're playing it well. Now, I did say that I preferred the old ultimate for certainly an escape perspective. It was good, but it charges every minute, and if used correctly, again, you get the audio cues for the bamboozles. So again, if someone shoots the decoys, you're getting the visual and the audio as well. And the last part, of course, for him is that, if you're respawning teammates, you go invisible as well. Again, just another useful thing to get those clutch revives that you might well need. Yes, it still alerts everyone, but hey, it's still really good. So that is the last one for, of course, the A tier. So as regards to the A plus tier then, Pathfinder. Maybe this will surprise you. Maybe a lot of people would put it lower since, of course, his little big nerf to his grapple. However, I still feel that he's in a really, really good place. Yes, I can kind of see actually his grapple being changed in due course. I can honestly see them lowering the cooldown time at some point there to quite possibly between 30 and 25 seconds. But I really, really do feel that, the 15 seconds that you had was just ridiculously, absolutely just so strong and so powerful that they needed to nerf it. And I know a lot of people complain, and there's a lot of Pathfinder mains that are now moaning, and I understand that. It's like anything. When you see one of your legends get nerfed hard, it is always a bit of a shock. But I do still see players doing very well with him, that don't rely just on the grapple, and I think that's how it should be. So I think that he's definitely still a really solid legend. As regards to, of course, things like, the zip line, it's very good, and the grapple there that I did, well, okay, it doesn't charge for 35 seconds. I pressed the wrong button actually and got a thing where I sort of shot forward, and I was like, oh good god, wasn't ideal. But regarding the grapple, it is still very handy. It's still such a useful escape, and it just gives him sort of like still that getaway. But like I say, I see them changing it to 25 or 30 seconds, and that should put him in perspective with the other legends. But I think he's still solid. The 5% more damage because of his hitbox. Yeah, like that, I don't know why necessarily they've got that, but I suppose maybe it's just, because he's a slightly weird legend to hit, and he still does have a bit of a janky hitbox, but they did hit registration quite a bit, so it seems vastly improved in comparison to how it was. The zip line can also be very useful for him, so again, it could be used to get away and just get up to high places that maybe the team and you couldn't do. And then, of course, you got the passives, the beacon as well, to sort of tell where the storm is. Now, again, in non-competitive play, it is useful. It's maybe not something that you rely on compared to competitive, where that is, of course, entirely, the name of the game is to gain position and so on. But he is still a very, very, very solid legend. And I do think that people are, very upset about the nerf, that he had. But realistically, I do still think he's very, very strong. And that is why I put him in the A plus tier, because he's not quite S tier anymore. He would have been if he'd have actually said the same grapple, but he's still a really, 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 really good legend to use. So that is, of course, Pathfinder. So there's only 2 legends left. Now, the last one in the A plus tier, which again is so close, is, of course, going to be Wraith. Wraith is very, very good. Why I haven't put her in the S tier is because she's had continual nerfs. And of course, I think she has been knocked down just a little peg compared to the very last legend that I'm going to place. However, of course, the going into the void, negating damage for even storm damage or anything that you're being shot at, any other parts, is really, 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 really handy. And it can just make such a difference. Her portal, as you'll see in this clip, can be insanely good. Whether it be competitive or non-competitive play, which is what I'm talking about, a really good Wraith player or a competent Wraith player can change the game up and get that you and your teammates out of a very bad situation into a much better position where you can then gain advantage over maybe another opposing team, and of course clutch up that something where maybe you had absolutely no chance whatsoever of kind of doing. Now, the ultimate does take quite a while to recharge, so, it's one of those things that it doesn't really kind of charge rapidly in comparison to some of the other ultimates. Probably a good thing. Other legends can use it, so even enemy teammates can use it. Can be a little bit of a pain if you're trying to revive someone or you're trying to do something, where you're trying to get the better position beforehand. Can be a little bit unfortunate, but you know, that is one of those things with a lot of the legends, their abilities do affect other people as well. But as you can see, I mean, like the portal here and Into the Void, which you can still do. Again, they nerfed the speed boost from it, I believe, which was kind of a shame. But again, it's handy for negating damage. As you can see, I wouldn't have survived the storm there if I actually hadn't have been able to go into the void. So another legend would have died. And that's the whole point, you see, is that she's very, very good for clutching up things like that. And again, you know, I think she's in a really good place. Yes, she takes the 5% extra damage, which is a bit of a pain, which, again, against a Wraith wasn't so bad because, you know, we both have the same sort of damage parts. Her passive about warning the teammates can be good. Again, it's not very specific, so it doesn't necessarily tell you where it is. So it can be okay, but not necessarily the strongest. It's alright. It's not the worst passive in the game. As regards to Into the Void, I mean, I showcased it in the Storm, but I just wanted to show this as well. Of course, you can escape things like Bangalore's ultimate as well, and get out damage-free, which is amazing. So that's why she's in my A+ tier. So the final legend that I want to talk about, of course, who could it be? Let's think now. Gibraltar. Gibraltar, to me, is by far the best legend in the game, and I think that he really probably needs a little bit of a balance. However, he's got the ultimate, which is, of course, you know, the big, massive sort of like, well, barrage, whatever you want to call it. So that just literally can do it. The dome shield is useful for those fast revives and fast healing as well. So you can just clutch up again a situation that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have an advantage on. He's got the passive shield, which of course gives him a little bit of extra health. Again, they did nerf that down to, I believe, 50 points quite recently. So I think that was for Season 5. So, you know, it maybe isn't as good as possible. But with the 15% sort of damage, you know, reduction that he takes as well. I mean, what other legend is going to be as strong as Gibraltar now? I do feel that maybe he needs, again, just a slight change. I know all your Gibraltar mains would probably be saying, no, please no, but, you know, he's by far the strongest legend in the game, and I hate coming across this particular legend. This is the one legend that I absolutely hate being matched against, and the reason for it is simply because he takes less damage. If you start off and you land at the beginning, you're scrambling for weapons and you pick up an RE45, it's like a pea shooter. It does hardly anything. And you're literally then struggling and you're kind of like, oh my good God, I'm not going to win this situation. I'm going to die. And it's horrible, you know? So I do feel like he is by far the strongest. He's got definitely like just all the tools that are needed. He's a good team legend, very strong in competitive, but he's also strong in non-competitive, which is what I'm talking about. And of course, well, like anything, he has got just the kind of the assets that any player could pick him up and play with. I mean, maybe a really new player maybe couldn't do as well, but they are going to have, any competent player can play this particular legend very, very well, and he can be very, very difficult to, of course, deal with, and it is always a shame. So look, that is it as regards to my ranking video. Now, if you want to drop a comment below about what legends you feel are placed where in non-competitive, please do. I would be certainly intrigued to see where that would be and where everything would be placed. I'm currently still a small YouTuber, unfortunately. I think I have 31 subscribers. If you want to subscribe for future videos, I'll be doing a mix of Apex Legends and Neo 2. So look out for those. I will be uploading more videos of both most definitely soon there. I've got some really good Apex videos to actually upload in the next day or two. And if you want to drop a like, of course, you found the video entertaining, you know, interesting, that would be fantastic as well. But otherwise, that is pretty much it from me as regards to my tier list for the competitive, non-competitive, Apex Legends. That is everything. You take care now, and thank you very much for taking the time to watch my video. All the best. Cheers now. Bye-bye.